Most people are scared of coming back to an empty house. I came home early once, and I swear to God I wished that house had been empty. Welcome back to Dad's True Revenge. Get your snacks ready, get comfortable, and just remember something important. The people in these stories always had chances to behave properly. They simply chose not to. Don't forget to drop a comment and subscribe as well. You're really going to enjoy what's coming. Let me tell you something about marriage. When you have spent 23 years sleeping in the same bed, sharing a bank account, and even sharing a bathroom with someone, and trust me, the bathroom part is the real test of love, you start to develop something like a sixth sense. You just know when something is wrong with them. You feel it before you see it. It's like a strange pressure in the air, like a smell that doesn't belong in your home. That Tuesday, I felt it the moment I turned into our street. I was not even supposed to be home that day. My conference in Denver had finished a full day earlier than planned. They said something about the keynote speaker having a personal emergency. Honestly, I think he just looked at the crowd and gave up on life. Either way, I caught the first flight back. I didn't call anyone. I didn't send any messages. I just thought I would surprise Cassandra. Maybe I could even grab her favorite Thai food on the way home. I was thinking maybe, for once, we could sit and eat together like a normal couple, without me staring at my laptop the whole time. I was in a good mood. Too good, looking back. I should have known better. The first thing that caught my attention was Preston's car in the driveway. Preston is my son. He is 26 years old, married to Lindsay for 2 years. They live in their own apartment across town. A very nice place, actually. One I helped them furnish myself. So seeing his car outside my house on a random Tuesday afternoon was not just unusual. It felt wrong. Preston doesn't just drop by. He barely even shows up when we plan things. So I sat in my car for a moment and said it out loud to no one. "Warren, why is your son's car in your driveway on a Tuesday?" I had no answer for myself. So I got out, took my bag, and walked toward the front door. The second thing I noticed was the silence. Not the calm kind of silence, not the peaceful kind where everyone is relaxing. This was the heavy kind, the thick kind, the kind of silence that feels like it has weight and is pressing down on you. Something about it just felt wrong in my chest. I opened the door and stepped inside. Preston and Lindsay were sitting in the living room, together, on the couch. And this is the part that still makes my skin crawl when I think about it. They were not watching TV. They were not on their phones. They were just sitting there, still. Like two people waiting in a hospital room, already accepting bad news before it arrives. Preston looked up first. And I need you to understand this clearly because this detail changed everything for me. He was not surprised. Not even a little. Think about that. Your father, who is supposed to be away in another city, suddenly walks through the front door a full day early, and you don't even react. No shock, no wide eyes, no, "Dad, what are you doing here?" Nothing. Just a slow blink. Like he already knew I would come home. Lindsay smiled, and I swear that smile had no business being on her face at that moment. It felt completely out of place. I said, "Preston, what's going on? Where's your mother?" He cleared his throat. "Dad, hey. We were actually just about to call you." "Were you?" I said flatly. Not even really a question. "Mom had an episode this morning," he said. "She's at Mercy General, but she's stable, so—" I didn't hear anything after Mercy General. My mind just locked onto those two words. I was back in my car in 11 seconds. I know because I counted them. When shock hits you, your brain starts recording the most useless details instead of the important ones. I called Kurt while driving. Curtis Barnes has been my best friend since 1987. He has seen me go through almost everything life can throw at a man. A near divorce, 2 financial crashes, and my embarrassing attempt at growing a beard back in 2009 that should never be spoken of again. If there is one person on earth who will tell me the truth without sugarcoating it, it's Kurt. He picked up on the second ring. Warren, what's going on, brother? He said. I said, Cassandra is in the hospital. Mercy General. I just got home early and found Preston and Lindsay sitting in my living room like they already knew how everything ends. There was a long silence on his side. Then he said, What do you mean? Like they already knew? Kurt, I said. My son didn't even react when I walked in, and I was supposed to be in Denver. Another pause. Then, very quietly, he said, Warren, I need you to stay calm. I am calm, I said. No, he replied. You're driving. That's not the same thing. And he was right. I wasn't calm at all. Mercy General was about 15 minutes from my house. I made it in 9. I'm not going to explain how. Dr. Beverly Nash met me at the nurses' station. She was calm, in her mid-50s, the kind of doctor who speaks in a steady voice even when the news is heavy. I was grateful for that steadiness at that moment. She said, Mr. Trevor, I'm glad you're here. Your wife was brought in this morning by your son. She had severe disorientation, stress on her organs, and high toxicity levels in her blood tests. I said, Toxicity levels? Yes, she replied. We're still running tests, but I want to be honest with you. This doesn't look like a sudden illness. It looks like something that has been building over time. That word, building, hit me hard, like a punch I didn't see coming. I held onto the counter and said slowly, Dr. Nash, are you telling me someone did this to my wife? She looked right at me and said, I'm telling you we need answers. And I think you already suspect the same thing. I went to see Cassandra. I have seen my wife in every possible state over the years. I've seen her laugh so hard she couldn't breathe. I've seen her angry enough to make me question every life choice I ever made. I've seen her tired, happy, heartbroken, and strong. But nothing prepared me for that moment. She looked empty, like someone had slowly drained everything that made her who she was. Machines were beeping beside her. An IV was running into her arm. And my wife, the same woman who once chased a contractor out of our kitchen with a wooden spoon for bad tile work, was lying there looking so small and broken it didn't feel real. I sat next to her, took her hand, and made her a promise. I don't make promises easily. Ask anyone who knows me. I told her, I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I find out exactly what happened to you. When I walked back out, Preston and Lindsay were already in the waiting area. Of course they were. Preston stood up quickly and said, Dad, we need to talk. There's a lot you don't... I raised one hand. Just one. He stopped talking immediately. Something in my face must have told him everything he needed to know, because he went silent. I said, Not yet. Then I walked to the corner of the waiting room, pulled out my phone, and started doing something they never expected. I started locking every single account they had access to, one by one. No hesitation. And when the notifications started hitting their phones, I watched Lindsay's face first. That confident little smile she had been wearing all day disappeared completely. Just like that. And in that moment, everything changed. Now it wasn't confusion anymore. Now it was a reaction. Now we were finally in the same conversation. That was the exact second I understood something important. Whatever had happened to my wife, I had just stepped right into the middle of it. And the only question left was, how deep did it go? And how many people were actually involved? If you've made it this far, take a second and subscribe. A lot of people watch and never do it, but it helps more than you think and it costs nothing. Thank you for that. Let me tell you something about denial. Denial is comfortable. It's warm. It sits next to you like a friend and tells you everything is fine. It tells you that you're overthinking things, that your instincts are wrong, that the people you love could never do the things your gut is warning you about. I lived in that state for longer than I want to admit. But sitting in that hospital parking lot at 9:43 at night, knowing my wife was hooked up to machines just a few floors above me, and remembering the look on my son's face, I stopped denying anything. I called Kurt again. He picked up immediately. "Talk to me," he said. "She looks bad, Kurt," I said. My voice cracked a little at the end, even though I didn't want it to. "The doctor said toxicity. It's been building, not sudden, something slow." I heard him breathe out slowly. Then he said, "Warren, slow usually means intentional." "I know what it means," I said. "And Preston and Lindsay were in the house," I added. "They're in the waiting room right now." There was a long silence. Then Kurt said something I will never forget for the rest of my life. He said, "Brother, you really need to think carefully about who had access to Cassandra's food, her drinks, and her medication every single day over the past few months. Think about who was around her all the time." And that's the moment it hit me. About 4 months ago, Cassandra had slipped on the stairs and twisted her ankle. It wasn't anything life-threatening, just a bad sprain. But Preston immediately stepped in. He suggested, almost too quickly, that Lindsay, who worked part-time and had a flexible schedule, could come to the house every morning. She would help Cassandra with breakfast and make sure she took her medication while I was at work. At the time, it felt thoughtful. I even told Kurt, maybe I was wrong about that boy. I wish I could go back and shake myself for saying that. I walked back inside. Preston was still standing near the vending machine, arms folded, wearing that expression of someone trying very hard to look innocent and completely failing. Lindsay was sitting down, her phone placed face down on her lap. And this matters a lot. Lindsay is never without her phone. Never. It is like it's glued to her hand. I once saw her scrolling during a Thanksgiving prayer. So seeing her phone face down told me everything. Either she was waiting for a call she didn't want me to notice, or she had already gotten one she didn't want me to see. I sat right across from them. Preston spoke first. "Dad, I know how this looks," I replied. "Do you, Preston? Explain to me exactly how you think this looks, because I am very interested." He shifted in his chair. "Mom has been having health problems for a while. We were just trying to help. Lindsay came by every morning, made sure she ate and took her vitamins." "Her vitamins?" I repeated slowly. "Yes." "Which vitamins?" He blinked. "What?" I said again. "Which vitamins exactly?" "She takes 3 different supplements." "So which ones did Lindsay give her?" He turned to look at Lindsay. Lindsay looked down at her lap. That 3-second silence between them told me everything I needed to know without a single word being spoken. I stood up. "I'm going to need both of you to go home." Then I looked at Preston and said his name once, calm and low, the way my own father used to say mine when I was about to cross a line I could never come back from. "Go home." Not even close to enough answers. I sat in that hospital waiting room holding a cup of terrible coffee, doing what any normal man would do if he suspected his own son and daughter-in-law might be harming his wife. I started looking for proof. I checked every bank statement from the past 6 months. And I am not some finance expert. I'm a 54-year-old man who still feels slightly uncomfortable using online banking. But even I could see something was off. There were withdrawals, small at first. 200 here, 350 there. Not enough to alarm you at first. They don't shout, they whisper. But when I added everything together, it came out to nearly $11,000 over 5 months. All from a joint account Cassandra and I shared. An account Preston only had limited emergency access to. $11,000. I called Kurt at 2 hard in the morning. He answered like it was the middle of the day. 11,000, I said without greeting him. From which account? He asked. The joint household account. Small withdrawals, steady, like someone who knew exactly how to avoid attention. There was a pause. Then Kurt said, "Warren, that's not random. That's planned. That's someone sitting down and figuring out how to do it without getting caught." My son, I said quietly. And I will be honest, those 2 words almost broke me right there in that waiting room at 2 a.m. My son planned this. We don't know that for sure yet, Kurt said carefully. I know, he added after a pause. The next morning, Dr. Beverly Nash found me exactly where she had left me the night before. Still in that waiting room. Still looking like a man who had lost a war he never saw coming. She sat beside me, which doctors usually don't do unless something is serious. She said, "Mr. Trevor, the full lab results are back." I said, "Just tell me straight." She took a breath. "Your wife has elevated levels of a compound that is consistent with long-term exposure to a specific heavy metal. The readings suggest repeated ingestion over several months. Her kidneys are under a lot of stress. We've started treatment, but I need you to understand something clearly. We caught it in time. She has a strong chance to recover." I closed my eyes for just a moment. Then I asked, "If someone did this on purpose, how would it be done?" She hesitated before answering carefully. "It could be mixed into food, drinks, or supplements, especially powdered supplements that dissolve easily and don't have a strong taste." In that instant, I heard Preston's voice in my head. Lindsay was coming every morning, making sure she ate and took her vitamins. I stood up so quickly my chair scraped loudly against the floor. Dr. Nash reached out and touched my arm. "Mr. Trevor, I need to make a call," I said. I called my lawyer first. Then I called the bank and locked everything down. Every account, every transfer, every access point. I changed permissions so only my attorney and I could reach them. I removed Preston's emergency access completely. I shut everything off. Within 20 minutes, my phone started ringing nonstop. Preston called 4 times. Lindsay called twice. Then a message came in from Preston. "Dad, what did you do? I can't access anything. Call me back right now. Right now." All caps. I stared at it for a long time. This was the same boy who had hugged me at Christmas not long ago and told me I was the best father he could ever have. I had believed him. I had felt proud. I typed one message back. "You should have thought about that before you touched my wife." Then I put my phone away and went back upstairs to Cassandra's room. She was still the only thing that mattered. She was going to wake up. Dr. Nash had said so. And when she did, I would be right there. But something had changed inside me. Something cold, focused, sharp. Because I still didn't understand the reason. $11,000 and a poisoned wife don't happen without purpose. Nothing this careful and slow happens without a goal. I needed to know what they were really trying to reach. That evening I called Kurt again. He answered immediately. "How is she?" he asked. "Stable, responding to treatment. She should recover." "Thank God," he said quietly. "Kurt," I continued, "I need you to do something. Find out if Cassandra changed anything recently. A will, insurance, anything involving me or Preston." There was a long silence. Then he said, "Warren, do you think this is about money?" I answered slowly. I think my son needed $11,000 badly enough to take it without asking. And I think whatever he needed it for was just the beginning. Kurt exhaled. "I'll look into it." I didn't know it yet, but by the next morning, Kurt would discover something that made $11,000 look small, almost meaningless. And it would change everything I thought I understood. If you've been following along and want more stories like this, then hitting like and subscribing really helps. Most people don't do it, but it's what keeps this going. And I'll say this honestly, revenge might be best served cold, but I like mine at the right temperature. Warm enough to hurt, precise enough to leave a mark that never really fades, and always delivered with a calm smile that people remember long after everything else is gone. The truth doesn't always come in loud or dramatic ways. It doesn't always crash in with noise and chaos. Sometimes, the truth arrives quietly, almost politely, like a phone call you weren't expecting, on a normal morning. While you sit in a hospital waiting room drinking bad coffee and watching daylight slowly creep through a window. That's how mine came. Kurt called at exactly 7:14 in the morning. I remember the time because I was staring at the clock, just waiting to go back inside and check on Cassandra again. He didn't even say hello. He just said, "Warren, you need to prepare yourself." I put my coffee down immediately. "Tell me," I said. 6 weeks before Cassandra ended up in the ICU, she had gone to see a state attorney alone. She didn't tell me. And knowing her, that meant she wasn't hiding something. She was preparing something. Cassandra always planned things carefully. Birthdays, holidays, family events. She could organize everything like a perfectly run system. What she had done was update her life insurance policy. And in the original version, Preston had been listed as the secondary beneficiary. He didn't greet me. He only said, "Warren, you need to prepare yourself." I put my coffee down and replied, "Just tell me." 6 weeks before Cassandra ended up in the ICU, she had gone to an estate attorney alone, without telling me. And knowing Cassandra, that only meant one thing. She was planning something big, probably a surprise. Cassandra was always a planner. Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, she could organize everything like a perfect system. She once joked she could run a military mission just to plan a dinner party. What she did was change her life insurance policy. The original policy had Preston listed as the secondary beneficiary. That was normal. We had set it up years ago when he was still young, but Cassandra went in to change it. She removed Preston completely and redirected everything into a charitable trust she had been quietly building for 2 years. It was a literacy program for children who had very little access to education. She never told me about it because she wanted it to be fully ready before showing anyone. That was just how she was. She never did things halfway. The policy was worth $2.3 million. Somehow, Preston found out. I don't know exactly how, and honestly, that detail doesn't matter much anymore. What matters is that he discovered his mother was about to remove him from a $2.3 million inheritance. Instead of calling her like a normal person and talking it through, he and Lindsay decided something else. They decided the best solution was that Cassandra should not be alive long enough to complete the update. The attorney's office had a 30-day processing window. Cassandra had 30 days left in that process when she collapsed. Just 30 days. In their plan, my wife had less than a month left to live. I sat there for a long time after hearing it. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stayed in that uncomfortable plastic chair in the hospital waiting area, feeling like the air had become too heavy for my chest. It felt like something crushing me slowly. Then I stood up, fixed my jacket, and walked toward the window. At that moment, I made a choice. I would not act emotionally. I would not make a scene. I would not confront Preston in a hospital hallway and give him a chance to turn everything into a legal mess or a public drama. I would be careful. I would be exact. I would take my time. I called my lawyer. Her name was Margaret Holloway, a calm, sharp woman who had spent 30 years dealing with cases like this. She had the kind of personality that made people uncomfortable because she didn't react emotionally. She just focused. I told her everything. The timeline, the supplements, the insurance change, the strange behavior, all of it. She stayed silent for 4 seconds after I finished. Then she said, "Warren, do not touch anything in that house. Do not confront them. Do not say a word to anyone. Not a single hint. Can you do that?" I said, "Yes, I can." She replied, "Good. Because when this comes out, I want it to hit with full force. No gaps, no escape routes." I told her, "I want them to feel everything." She said, "Don't worry. By the time I'm finished, they will feel every inch of it." I almost smiled. Almost. The next 3 days felt endless. Cassandra's condition started improving. Dr. Nash said things were cautiously positive. Her kidney function was getting better. The treatment was actually working.